Slovakia, the Slovakia ring for the third round of the season for the FIA Central European Zone 1 hour endurance race. We're here for the endurance format of the ESETCup. There are drivers who have already raced this weekend in ESETCup. There are drivers who are racing for the first time. Everyone is ready to put on a show here for the third round of the season, and there's a lot of crowd actually here in Slovakia. The sun is starting to set, but of course we still have 1 hour of racing here for the endurance race here at the Slovakia ring. And what better way for the Slovakian fans to cheer than to have one of their own on pole position. It's Gregor Žigo in first position. Of course, the BMW M6 GT3 car still yet to come here on the start-finish straight. Of course, the grid now getting ready behind me as we speak, with many cars, a grand total of 14 cars taking part in this race, 4 different classes. We're in for a show today. Of course, 1 hour of racing, we will have pit stops, driver swaps for those crews with 2 drivers. Of course, there are also people who are racing on their own. For example, Žigo himself, starting from pole, he will be the only driver for his team for his BMW M6 racing today. And here he is, coming to the grid, the number 24 car. He has been the quickest out in qualifying. Definitely a great qualifying for Gregor, who has looked to be absolutely on fire on Friday, and today here on Saturday he's definitely going to look to win his home race. But of course, the GTX class is also very quick. The KTM cars being extremely fast in qualifying. We have one in second position, and of course it's Reinhard Koffler, someone who has started for second place in the ESETCup this weekend here at the Slovakia ring, and he's been absolutely sensational in the weekend so far. We'll see if the RTR car can bring the heat for the battle for first place, of course, with Gregor Žigo being the absolute favorite so far for this race. Not to mention, of course, the second row of the grid with Viktor Mraz, the Slovakian driver, racing in the KTM GTX car in third position. Of course, maybe slightly less favorite starting from third, but of course with such a long race, we have 1 hour of entertainment coming very soon. It's going to be extremely interesting to see how he fares. Now the siren that you just heard, it's only 5 minutes to the grid. In 4th and 5th place, we have a father and son duo, because in 4th, it's Adam Konopka in 4th position, and his father, Miro, is starting in 5th right behind him. Of course, Miro, just off of his incredible success in the ESETCup with the Ligier LMP3, now joining, of course, the ART Bratislava team, together with his son, trying to race in 2 different cars, fighting for the top, especially in the GT3 category. We're going to have a lot of fun today. It's 1 hour of race. It's going to be very interesting, of course, to see the different strategies, with team needing to switch, of course, driver if their driver pairings require so. Others choosing to go and flying solo. For example, of course, our pole sitter Gregor Žigo and Adam Konopka starting in 4th place. We had qualifying, it was the BMW M4 GT3 of Antal Žigo and Max Hesse, but unfortunately due to a 5-place grid penalty and at the previous round, they will start further down 6th position.
We are opening the 2023 season here in Germany. First of the 6 calendar events that are ready for us this year.
Oh, there's contact between Joachim Galláš and Libor Milotan.
There is the race leader, Filip Salaguarda. They are now going to be side by side across the line, but Galláš is prevailing. Joachim Galláš scores another victory.
With his teammate, there's a slight touch in the first corner.
What a move that was. forward, and there's a contact. Luckily, everybody else has managed to avoid that car. This is going to be a photo finish between the two Lambos. Who's first? It must be Denis Vashek. Unbelievable! This is a big crash, massive crash.
And here we are for the final race of Saturday. We saved the best for last, didn't we? With the 1 hour endurance race featuring 14 cars and 4 different classes. It's going to be a very competitive race. It's going to be tough to see who will come out on top. Of course, the GT3 category being the quickest out there today, but let's not forget about the GTX cars with the KTM being up there on the front row of the grid. It's BMW who will line up in first position with the M6 GT3, who unfortunately had to withdraw from race 1 in the ESETCup in preparation for this endurance race, with an incredible job by the pole sitter Gregor Gigo, who was able to put his BMW into first position. Trevor Racing finding the sweet spot out there in qualifying. Not easy, of course, with only a handful of minutes for the drivers. And what a job by Reinhard Koffler as well, with the Austrian, who put it in on the front row in the ESETCup and did the same for the 1 hour endurance race. He will be partnering with Thomas Miniberger throughout this race, so we'll see him throughout. And I think after the first 30 minutes of racing, going to the pits and leave Thomas the job to finish things off. Third place is Viktor Mraz with the Slovakian driver who is looking to make an impact. Of course, racing with none other than Slovakian star and reigning TCR Eastern Europe champion Macho Homola, who earlier won the opening race in a touring category. Fourth position is then Adam Konopka, ahead of his father Miro, who is starting in fifth position, ahead of who they actually were the pole sitters, Antal Žigo and Max Hesse, before the penalty that came from the Red Bull ring. But you see the cars, they are rounding out the final two corners of the Slovakia ring, and we are ready for 1 hour of racing here in Slovakia. On the left is Gregor Žigo, on the right is Reinhard Koffler. The sides now being switched as we go racing right about now for the 1 hour endurance race in FIA Central European Zone. Here we go right towards turn number 1, and it is Reinhard Koffler taking the lead just as he did in the ESETCup, with Gregor Žigo behind him and Adam Konopka in the ARC Bratislava car, the Lamborghini Huracan GT3, up into third with his father Miro closely following behind, fighting with Viktor Mraz for fourth place. Watch out now for Žigo as he looks to the outside, but nothing that he can do over the KTM of Reinhard Koffler, as the Austrian keeps first place as of right now. And once again, starting on the outside line towards turn 1 seems to be the way to go, with Koffler once again getting the jump on the pole sitter. And here you can see the timer left, 58 minutes and 55 seconds. We have a long one ahead of us, but definitely one of the most exciting races of the whole weekend. Here you see Gregor Žigo lining up a move on Koffler, whereas we see also all the other cars. We briefly saw Kogelbauer Motorsport Porsches, part of the Cup car, of the Cup class, the GTC 1 class to be exact, and it was Franz Lammer and Bob Bau. They put on a show earlier in ESETCup, and they look to do the same here in the endurance format, both racing on their own for the Austrian team. And here you can see the BMW M6, the older model of the BMW GT3 car, being very close to Reinhard Koffler. Let's see if there's a move to be had towards turn number 1. We saw how quick the KTM is on the straight line speed test. Defending the inside, giving Žigo the outside line. Definitely not the best one into turn 1, and in fact it's Koffler who keeps P1 steadily, though he runs a bit wide, and so there's a chance for Žigo to now attack his rival towards turns number 2 and 3. Especially turn 3 is a prime overtaking opportunity around this 5.9 kilometer circuit. Let's see if Žigo can make the move stick. No, he can't, not for now at least. But this fight has helped Adam Konopka, as he now closes things up and is up into third, only a second away from the leader, and right behind the pole sitter of Gregor Žigo. Out of the top 3, just Koffler will pit to give his teammate the final part of the race, with Tomasz Miniberger ready to take over. Of course, not an easy weekend for Koffler, racing in 2 championships at once. But the same can be said for Adam Konopka, who is doing everything on his own. And here you can see him quite close to the BMW M6, who is struggling in the corners, of course, with the longer wheelbase and a bit of a wider car as well, less agile compared to the Huracan. Right behind him we have who should have been the pole sitter if penalties from the Red Bull ring weren't applied, and that is the BMW M4 GT3 of Antal Žigo. Trevor Racing bringing both cars, both models from BMW, the M6 and the M4. The latter, of course, being faster on paper, which is why they got the fastest lap in qualifying, though starting from P6, now already up to P4, and with clean air now. We'll see what their pace is like as we start lap number 3 with Koffler still in the lead for RTR Projects, ahead of Gregor Žigo and Adam Konopka. You can see now Žigo looking to the inside towards turn 3. It's definitely the best overtaking spot on this circuit, 5.9 kilometers long, with 14 corners, 7 to the left, 7 to the right, and has this sort of triangular look to it. But it's a very technical track, especially in the middle part, where we have this combination of slow corners where the GT cars admittedly struggle, but at the same time get their mechanical grip at its fullest potential. And you can see now the BMW pushing quite a lot, also trying to build a bit of a gap over Adam Konopka in third place. The number 77 car now struggling to keep the gap to second under 1 second. Sorry for the wordplay, but that's how it is, with Žigo now definitely looking dangerous on Reinhard Koffler, with the RTR car looking to be the one to beat as of right now after the first 6 minutes of racing, but it's a very long one. Still 54 minutes to go, and only when the clock will strike 0 will we know the name or the names that have conquered the Slovakia ring in the 1 hour endurance race. Start lap 4 with the KTM GTX car still in the lead, ahead of Gregor Žigo. And it's Adam Konopka with his Lamborghini Huracan GT3. The two ARC Bratislava cars currently in 3rd and 6th, with Miro Konopka losing a couple of spots compared to his start. And as we see now, Žigo putting the pressure on Kopfer. We have a look at the times, and it was a phenomenal lap for the top 2 leaders of the race, lapping a second quicker than Konopka in the previous lap. And also the other Žigo, Antal, losing almost 2 seconds compared to the leaders in his BMW M4. But of course that car will come alive when Max Hesse will join in the fun. Of course, the German driver being one of the quickest of them all. An official driver for BMW, born in 2001, one of the youngest drivers actually on the scene. A winner also, a class winner in the 24 hours of the Nürburgring, and racing currently in the GT World Challenge Europe Endurance Cup with Rover Racing and BMW. He knows the car very well, and this is why he put it on pole. But of course, we will have to wait until the second half of the race to see him. So watch out for car number 500 as we now start lap number 5 with Žigo, a teammate of car number 500, still very close to the lead. And Adam Konopka somehow trying to stay in there, but still losing 1.3 seconds in the previous lap, but gaining by over a second over the fight for 4th, which is now followed by the cameras. It's Antal Žigo and Mraz, who was starting in 3rd with his KTM GTX car. Of course, for Mraz, the possibility to fight for the podium after starting in 3rd, but the hometown hero struggling in the first phases of this race, at least in the first 9 minutes, and dropping a couple of spots down to 5th. But here is the fight for the lead with Koffler and Gigo, one after the other. Now you can see just how quick the GTX car can be. This is the fight for fourth. It's a car that is very interesting. Unfortunately, there isn't a big enough market in Europe to have its own series, at least on an international level of some sorts. But the KTM GTX car is such an interesting project and definitely one of the coolest looking cars on the grid, and also pretty quick as well, because otherwise the RTR project team with Reinhard Koffler wouldn't be leading this race, as Gregor Gigo now rounds out the final two corners on his quest to bring BMW back to the front. The first 10 minutes of racing have gone by, just like that. And here you can see the ARC Bratislava car of Adam Konopka, and slightly in the background you could see for just a second his father Miro in the other bright yellow Lamborghini following suit, right now in 6th position. He is trying to gain some time, just like the two Kogelbauer Motorsport cars. Where we can now see it's a generational conflict between the Porsche 992 and the 991. The older model slightly behind now compared to the newer model, as Bob Bau is looking to overtake Franz Lama. Sorry, that's the other way around actually right now, because Lama got overtaken throughout the previous lap, and therefore it's Bob Bau now in front in 9th position. The two trading places just like they did in the ESETCup earlier today. Many drivers racing twice this weekend in the two championships, the sprint and the endurance format, giving them even more track time to learn the car, learn the track, and perhaps be even more competitive when Sunday rolls around for the second sprint round of the weekend. Of course, the endurance race is a standalone event in the economy of the weekend itself, which means that this is the one and only chance for a couple of drivers to shine, and this is definitely the case for example, BMW Works driver Max Hesse. 47 minutes and 50 seconds left on the clock. It's still Reinhard Koffler leading things off with Gregor Gigo in 2nd position, and it will be interesting now to see Gigo's tactics, because of course he still has a lot of time. We have the pit stop phase that will start in about 20 minutes or so, and therefore there's plenty of time to make a move, plenty of time to study his opponent and see where he's weaker. Of course, Koffler handing over the car to Miniberger. This will kind of level the playing field in terms of experience. About the other driver, with Gigo having raced only Koffler so far, but of course he knows where the GTX car is the most vulnerable. And talking about GTX cars, we have the lovely Orlen Yannick Motorsport livery, perhaps the most beautiful livery out there, with the KTM of Petr Kukola currently in 2nd position, with Yannick Baklav ready to take over once the pit stop phase rolls around. They're currently fighting for 11th against the number 440 Porsche 992 Cup of Radek Kolarik, the Czech driver racing on his own for the endurance round, but not less competitive because of that. It's just a matter of endurance, really. There are drivers who prefer racing on their own because they have their destiny entirely in his hands, in their hands actually, and other drivers who, on the other hand, prefer to split driving duties to be as fresh as possible, and of course to have a bit of teamwork inside the garage as well. which is definitely the case, for example, for the other BMW that we have, the M4 GT3 of Max Hesse and Antal Gigo. There's a third BMW racing today. It's the it's the 444 car of Rudolf Benio, the Slovakian driver, racing in the BMW M4 GT4 car, and so in the GT4 class, currently holding the lead of that particular class, with the other GT4 car right behind him in 14th position, and it's the one driven by Szabolcs Lantos, the Hungarian driver for Lema Racing in the Mercedes AMG GT4. Currently in second position in class. But here we can still see the slight advantage of Reinhard Koffler over Gregor Gigo. Gigo still desperately trying to, well, he was once desperately trying to attack, but now he's just trying to hold on really to Koffler, who is looking like the quickest driver out there. Absolutely phenomenal job from Koffler so far. The gap now growing to 1.2 seconds after the second sector. It's definitely not what Gigo wanted, as he needs to gather his thoughts and perhaps start pushing a bit more, sacrificing his tire life a bit, but right now Koffler is definitely pulling away little by little as he goes over the hill and now towards turns number 13 and 14. And here is Adam Konopka, third in the overall standings in the SSGT Cup earlier today in race 1, winner of the GT3 class. He knows this car very well. He has raced it around here a couple of hours ago, and so he definitely knows how the car handles over a 25-minute period. Of course, here we have 60 minutes of racing, which is definitely an added variable for the drivers. You know, there's usually a couple of tactics that drivers use on such a long race, especially when driving on their own, because you can either push at the start and try and build the biggest gap possible, which is probably what the RTR project car in P1 is currently doing. And then there's the conservative tactic of putting perhaps your less competitive driver first and then going to town in the second half of the race, hopefully with the tires and the car withholding the pressure of being pushed to the limit at the end of the 60 minutes of running. And that is definitely what the BMW M4 crew of Trevor Racing are doing, with Antal Gigo ready to give factory driver Max Hesse the car during the pit stop phase. Here is the car in racing, purple KTM, driven by Mraz so far in 4th position. They have managed to overtake the Trevor Racing BMW of Antal Gigo we were talking about before. That was the fight for 4th place, with now Gigo down to 5th and 4.3 seconds away from Mraz actually, and a whole 16.7 seconds behind Koffler, the race leader, now followed closely by the cameras together with his rival Gregor Gigo. It's a big gap after only 19 minutes, isn't it? But of course we know how quick Max Hesse can be, and therefore it would be no surprise to see him back on top. He claimed pole by almost a second over the BMW of Gigo, and he had 1.4 seconds of an advantage over Reinhard Koffler. Of course, we will have to see for Koffler how Tomasz Miniberger will fare today. It's not easy to jump into a car that is already warmed up and it's already in race stream mode. And as a driver, it's really tough to wait on the sidelines for your turn. We know how hard it can be to jump in a car and the need to be on pace right from the get-go is absolutely crucial on a race like this, especially with the gaps being this little, as Gigot is currently holding down P2. Of course, the race is still very long. There's still quite a lot of way to go. You can see the gap slightly going up, going up, going up. 3/10 was the gap between Koffler's last lap and Gigot's. 2 minute 1 second .8 the lap time for Koffler. 2 minute 2 second .1 for Gigot. He was definitely quick, the RTR driver in the KTM GTX. And it's very nice to see a GTX car up there. We know how quick they can be, and of course we know how important it is for them to fight against GT3 cars. In a way, it's their method of saying we have a very good package and a very good car underneath us. Of course, this gives even more spotlight to the teams themselves. The first third of racing has concluded almost 30 seconds ago. We still have 39 minutes or so left in the race. Lovely camera shot from above. You can see the incredibly wide final corner, and of course the start-finish straight that the BMW M4 is now navigating towards turn 1. And here is Antal Gigot in, I must say, one of the most beautiful GT3 cars ever made. The BMW already announcing the Evo project for the M4 car that will hit the track in 2025. We'll see that in every major championship around the world, not just in Europe, which is very exciting to see. But of course, joining in on the fun with a new M4 model since the last 2 to 3 years, depending on the series. BMW has really made a step forward, but as we can see here in the endurance race of ESETCup, the M6 is still very competitive, isn't it? Now in second position, fighting for the win, getting outright pole. It's been definitely a wake-up call for them. Of course, the GT3 older models struggling against the newer ones. We saw it even with Ferrari, with the transition between the 488 and the 296. Brand new GT car that has now taken the world by storm, winning many important races such as the 24 Hours of the Nürburgring in 2023. This year, of course, Audi taking the crown in one of the most difficult ones to date. And here you can see also a car stopped, which looked like one of the Mercedes AMG GT4 cars of Jabos Lantos. We will have to wait and see, but unfortunately it looks like he has slowed down. Yes, here we see it thanks to the lovely work by the cameraman and a technical team behind the production, the TV production. Fortunately not the way that Lema Racing wanted things to go, but Jabos Lantos, sorry, putting an end to his race early on. Unfortunately, looks like a technical issue striking the Mercedes AMG GT4 car, who was fighting, of course, for the lead of the GT4 standings, which is now in the hands of Rudolf Benio and Ares Racing with the BMW M4 GT4. Such a shame, really, for Lema Racing, but the show must go on. And here we are with ARC Bratislava and the Lamborghini Huracan GT3. There's two Huracans running around today, belonging to father and son duo Miro and Adam Konopka. The former splitting driving duties with Zeno Mikulaszko, whereas his son Adam is racing on his own after already having competed in the ESETGT Sprint Cup, which is definitely a impressive feat for the hometown hero driver. Home favorites, of course, the two Konopkas. With the local team, of course, we're very close to Bratislava, only 30 minutes away from the national capital, this being the most important track in the whole region. They feel this as their home race. Let's not forget that ESETCup will be back here at the Slovakia ring in August for what will be a very interesting and exciting race. I must say it's quite hot today with almost 28 degrees out there in the early stages of the afternoon, but let's just wait until August, because I think we will definitely break the 30 degrees barrier, and it will be even tougher for drivers to keep their tires cool and keep them alive for as long as possible. And here is ARC Bratislava with their Lamborghini Huracan GT3, a car that has been getting quite a lot of success in GT3 racing. It needs to be said that the GT3 category is populated by an incredible piece of machinery. And of course, Porsche is another one of them. We don't have any GT3s from Porsche here in the 1 hour endurance race, but we have the Cup class with the 992 Cup and the 991 generation cars racing. And currently, the GTC1 class is led by car number 7, now watched by the cameras, and it is Hubert Darmetko, the Pole, who is racing with Mateusz Lizowski. They were phenomenal, it needs to be said, in Balaton Park. At least Lizowski was. He raced in the GT3 class, getting the win in race 1. And of course, in the GTC1 category, it was Petr Breka and Karel Neffe winning the final race up to now at the Red Bull Ring, now leading the championship, with Darmetko and Lizowski finishing in second in that race, and now currently third and fourth respectively, with Darmetko winning on his own the opening race at Balaton Park. This is definitely a fight to look out for in the standings, with Breka and Neffe currently in second position today, just 8 seconds behind the class leader Darmetko. And here you can see the car going up the hill, whereas we already see some cars in the pits, and here we are. We have one of the BMWs and one of the ARC Bratislava Lamborghinis in, and if I'm not mistaken, it looks to be the M4 BMW of Gigo pitting for a driver change, with Max Hesse ready to climb back in the car after the good performance he had in qualifying. Whereas here is one of the Porsche Cup cars coming out of the pit lane. Number 85 of Breka and Neffe racing today, with the latter now in the car. And here you can see, I was right, the BMW M4 is recognizable by the big and almost a square grid at the front on the front bumper. Max Hesse getting strapped in and ready to go. And here is also one of the other Porsche Cup class by the Austrians at Kogelbauer Motorsport. With Wlammer and Bau ready to go into the pits, with Bau now currently serving his stop. And here you can see the BMW almost being done with its pit stop. You basically lose a whole lap throughout this, but it looks like they have stayed in front of Mina Konopka the other driver to pit for ARC Bratislava. And now it's up to Max Hesse to finish things up in the best way possible. With 30 minutes and 46 seconds to go, it needs to be said that Max Hesse is likely to be the quickest driver out there today. Of course, his huge experience in GT3 racing, despite his very young age. He's only 22, turning 23 this year. Here you can see one of the Kugelbauer Motorsport cars getting to go back out on track. And here is class leader Darmetko pitting in to give Mateusz Lizowski the pleasure to finish the race, and of course the responsibility of bringing the car home to score the points. Hubert Darmetko has done his part. He now needs his teammate to have an even stronger second half of the race if they want to win this one, which is of course the aim. Fortunately, they came up short in Austria at the Red Bull Ring, finishing second behind Brecker and Neffer, who have pitted 2 laps earlier than the number 7 crew. So we'll see who will come out on top. Here you can see the pit stop phase, trying to cool down the brakes of the car, which of course rise in temperature once the car is stopped. Whereas here is race leader Reinhard Koffler, ready to live his dream of winning a race, but of course also ready to concede his seat to Tomasz Miniberger, as the GTX KTM will be pitting very, very shortly, together with Gregor Žigo and Adam Konopka. Top 3 still yet to pit. Now we need to watch very closely the lap times set by the number 500 car of Max Hesse, who is on his first lap of the race now, after completing his out lap and going very quick in the second and the third sector. The lap time to beat for the fastest lap of the race, it's a 2 minute 1 second flat by Gregor Žigo, whereas here you can see the number 7 car rejoining in what looks to be the lead of the class still, with Darmetko leaving his seat to Lizowski for the last 28 minutes or so of racing. Of course, the pit stop window is definitely one of the most crucial points of the race. It is a delicate phase that sees many things that could potentially go wrong between the pit stops and the rejoining phase and strategy. Many variables that could decide the entire race, really, which is why Koffler and Žigo and Adam Konopka at the front are looking to make the best decision possible. They both continue for now, the top 2. We'll see if Adam Konopka does the same. He's already 10 seconds behind the 2 leaders, as Konopka looks to be pitting. Yes, he is. We saw him on the pit lane while we were watching the number 7 car. And here is Adam Konopka pitting together with one of his rivals, the GTX number 26, that has been driven so far brilliantly, I must say, by Victor Mraz, with now a slightly competitive driver in Macho Homola, ready to take over the wheel of the GTX car. And here you can see the BMW M4 GT4 car, who is actively leading the class, also thanks to the retirement that happened earlier on that struck the Mercedes GT4 car of Jabol Lantos. Whereas here is Macho Homola, ready to get back out on track, and here you can see yet another GTX car, the beautiful Orlen car of Petr Kukola. Kukola pairing up with Nick Vaclav. Just getting out of the pits, as is one of the Porsche Cup cars. It looks to be the one of Kogelbauer Motorsport, but we'll wait until official confirmation. As here is the ARC Bratislava Lamborghini. The GT3 car now getting away from the pit box. You can see the M6 of Gigot going past. And now the Lamborghini rejoining in what looks to be still third place. Fourth is now Macho Homala. Here it is, the Karin GTX car, and we saw briefly in the distance Max Hesse, who just posted, told you to stay alert, the fastest lap of the race in a 2-minute flat 0.7, just beaten, however, by Miro Konopka's teammate, with Geno Mikuláško setting a 2-minute flat 0.6, as we see the stranded Mercedes GT4 car being recovered by one of the trucks around the circuit. It's very disappointing for Lemma Racing to see their race unfolding this way. Which is of course not what they wanted and not what we wanted, spectacle-wise. The number 20 car heavy to retire after only 9 laps completed. Active works in the pit stops for what looked like the race leader of Reinhard Koffler. Of course, still needs to pit together with Grigor Gigot. The very atypical door of the KTM, which is basically the entire cockpit lifting up and going towards the front. Little trouble in starting the car, and it looks to have stalled it actually, which could be a problem for Thomas Miniberger and in general for RTR as well. They're not restarting, are they? They're either waiting. No, they're not waiting. There's something wrong with the car. This is a very disappointing thing to say, to see. It's a real shame, because now we get deprived of our fight for the win that we wanted so bad, as now the KTM goes out on track. But I think the Gigot has already moved past the start finish line. Here you can see Koffler rejoining on the track is the RTR car after briefly stalling on the pit box. Thomas Miniberger won't be happy with himself for that, for sure. And let's see how much time it cost them, because behind they had a raging Gigot and an even faster Adam Konopka, who is now desperately trying to defend from Max Hesse, who now goes around the outside, surely not, into one of the slowest corners of the season, and Max Hesse is through to what is effectively 4th place. This will later become 3rd once everyone completes their pit stops, which they are doing during this during this lap. And here is the fight for what is now effectively third, as Konopka and Hesse are fighting hard. And you can see just how much time Koffler and Miniberger have lost. It looks like they've even dropped out of contention for the overall podium as well. Live timing saying that they're currently in 6th position, which is definitely not where they wanted to be. But of course, they lost so much time during the pit stop window. Here you can see the two ARC Bratislava cars of father and son. Fortunately, however, the father isn't in the car right now because it is teammate Zeno Mikuláško, looking to be as quick as ever, currently holding the fastest lap of the race. He looks to bring his Lamborghini in front of the sister car, the number 77, for a spot on the podium, both in the overall standings and in the GT3 category. We'll see how the standings look like after Gregor Zsigo's pit stop. Though he's definitely looking strong at the moment, holding the lead and not wanting to do anything less than winning the race. Whereas we have a car now, unfortunately, in the gravel, and is that actually Gregor Zsigo? It is, yes, it's the number 24 car. Just as we were talking about how good they were driving, Trevor Racing just can't seem to stay in first place with the M6 after taking pole, losing it to the KTM car during the start, and then now being disappointingly in the gravel, which is a real shame for them, as the incredible amount of grass and gravel now brought to the track by the number 24 car. But thankfully they are able to be back in a race. But yeah, so much time lost for the number 24, who now looks to be even out of the podium, currently in 5th position, which does only one thing, and it's to promote their sister car, the M4 of Max Hesse and Antal Zsigo, to the lead of the race. I told you, watch out for the M4, which will come back very strong in the second half of the race. What better way to finish the weekend this would be, to finish the day, then with a win after starting from 6th. A stellar 2 minute 1 second flat for Hesse, gaining 2.4 seconds on Adam Konopka in the previous lap. Mikuláško looking to be the only one able to attack Hesse, and I'll tell you what, he looks to be less than 5 seconds behind Hesse. So if he can get past the sister car of Adam Konopka, he could potentially be on his way to fight for the race win. Mikuláško has now crossed the start-finish line, clearing Adam Konopka during the lap. Mikuláško, here it is, thanks to the lovely work by the cameraman and the technical support of the TV coverage. The number 77, sister car of Adam Konopka, slipping down to 3rd, promoting Mikuláško up to 2nd and unleashing the Slovakian driver, who is now on a quest to win on home soil, preventing, of course, home favorite Gregor Zsigo, but most importantly, sorry, preventing Antalgigo and Max Hesse from winning the race. It's a battle between two teams from Slovakia. On one hand, Trevor Racing, on the other, ARC Bratislava. It's two of the most competitive GT3s around as well, the BMW M4 against the Lamborghini. And only 5 seconds separating the two, who looks to have similar pace, with Mikuláško having the fastest lap of the race by only a tenth and a half over Hesse, which is definitely what Mikuláško wants to know in order to challenge for the win. And here you can see one of the Porsche Cup cars, where we go with the drone that is following Mikuláško around. As we were saying, 5 seconds is the gap between himself and Max Hesse. The Porsche Cup class now still led by Hubert Dermetko and Mateusz Rizowski, the latter now in the car. And look at that, the last lap saw Hesse lose only 0.05 of a second from Mikuláško. The rhythm almost being identical, and I must say, on another planet compared to the others. 3 seconds faster than Konopka, who is definitely feeling the fatigue creeping in after racing in the Sprint Cup and doing 3/4 of race distance. Only 14 minutes left of action as the sun is starting to slowly set here at the Slovakia ring, providing an even better scenario for what could be a photo finish between Trevor Racing and ARC Bratislava, with only 30 minutes and 48 seconds left on the clock. You can see just how precise Mikuláško is through the corners. The number 44 Lamborghini responding to every single input the Slovak is giving it. And here you can see the lovely track and the triangle shape I was talking about, but you can see just how technical that middle sector really is. Very difficult to find the right lines, very difficult to find the right braking points. It's just a very technical track, really. And also, don't be fooled by the long straights of sectors 1 and 3, because those corners are still deadly, as we saw many times throughout the day, especially turn 1. Here you can see Mikuláško going back to the start-finish straight to start what is his 23rd lap. The gap now up to 5.7 seconds. There was an answer from Max Hesse, a 2-minute 1.3. Phenomenal lap time by Hesse, 7/10 quicker than Mikuláško, as Adam Konopka is currently holding 3rd place with a 14-second gap over Macho Homola, who is now leading the GTX class after the issues experienced by Tomasz Miniberger in restarting the car after stalling it in the pit box. And of course, the other GTX car being further behind, the Orlen Yannick Motorsport machinery of Petr Kukula and Yannick Vaclav, the latter now in the car. So could this potentially be a double success for Macho Homola today after winning race 1 in TCR Eastern Europe? We will see him then again on Sunday in the touring car, championship leader, and of course the reigning champion of the series from 2023. And here are the previous leaders in the overall standings, with Reinhard Koffler doing a fantastic job to keep P1 after getting it into turn 1 on lap 1. And unfortunately then Tomasz Miniberger stalling the car in the pit stop restart, which saw her then drop and lose basically a minute to the leaders in
dropped to P6 in the overall standings. Now second in the GTX class. And here you can see the other KTM, the one driven by Yannick Vaclav, the Czech, who is looking to finish on the podium in his class. Meanwhile, the gap in front still growing. Max Hesse not letting the pressure get to him. He was 4/10 quicker than Mikuláško the previous lap. He's definitely looking to get this win under his bag with 10 minutes and 15 seconds to go. As we follow the KTM GTX car of Yannick Motorsporter, driven by Yannick Vaclav through the second sector. It's very difficult to get a grasp on how quicker or slower the GTX car is compared to the GT3 field. Usually GT3s are slightly quicker than the GTX class. We're seeing it now with drivers of the caliber of Max Hesse and Geno Mikuláško in the GT3s. But of course, this is also showing the competitiveness of a driver such as Macho Homola, currently holding the win and the class lead in GTX, racing two very different categories this weekend. The other, of course, being his beloved TCR cars, a driver that has had experience on the TCR's biggest stage to date, racing in the World Touring Championship Cup class, of course in 2018, and then racing in the TCR Europe between 2020 and 2022. Here you can see the GTC1 leaders with Lisowski in the car with a 24-second gap over championship leaders Karin Neffe now in the car and his teammate Petr Breka. As the Porsche is looking strong in this race. They have led from start to finish, haven't they, Darmetko and Lisowski? They did a perfect job throughout qualifying and the first 52 minutes of the race. Just 8 minutes to go to see who will come out on top in all four classes. I think this is also a perfect time to remember the calendar of the ESETCup weekend. After the Slovakia ring, we will be back on track in 3 weeks' time at the Lausitz ring in Germany, before going on a holiday up until August, where we will go to the Autodrom Most in the Czech Republic before coming back here at the Slovakia ring. We just love this place so much. And we're racing here twice this year. Of course, the second race of the Slovakia ring on the 24th and 25th of August, before the grand finale of the ESETCup series in Brno from the 7th to the 9th of September, being the Czech racetrack, one of the most important for the series organized by Krenek Motorsport. With now 6 minutes and 48 seconds left on the clock. You can see the former leaders of Koffler and Mini Berger navigating turns 3 and 4 pretty nicely. And here is race leader Max Hesse. Let's not forget, of course, the brilliant job done by Antal Žigo in the first part of the race, because although it's true that it's thanks to Max Hesse's pace that the BMW is currently leading the race, it also needs to be said that Žigo's racecraft has been absolutely phenomenal, especially in the first half of today's endurance race, just because of his awareness and his brilliant racecraft. The car was in a great place, when given to Hesse, and the team strategy looking to work flawlessly here at the Slovakia ring. Five minutes and 46 seconds to go. We're just at the dying stages of the race. The lovely Slovakia ring. You can see now the sun has basically hid himself in the clouds. The sun setting as the race day is coming close to its end. But of course, don't worry, we still have one more day of excitement, battles, and racing coming on Sunday, with the ESETCup being back in the GT sprint format alongside the Formula 4 Central European Zone, the TCR Eastern Europe, and of course the TCC Clio Cup. And here is the M4 GT4 car, a machinery that we've seen slightly less of, but of course the battle, especially in the GT3 category, has been so intense that it's been very difficult to focus on every single car out there. But Ares Racing, with Rudolf Beño leading things off, and here is what looks to be Geno Mikuláško in the gravel. Looks, yes, it is the number 44 car, so that unfortunately brings an end to what could have been a fantastic fight for the win, though Hesse was growing his gap lap after lap, but unfortunately an off in the gravel. A very uncharacteristic mistake from Mikuláško, probably due to just how hard he was pushing. Yeah, such a shame for the ARC Bratislava car, but however, they still stand in second position. The sister car, the number 77, driven by Adam Konopka, now followed by the cameras in third place. It's been definitely a successful weekend for ARC Bratislava so far, getting the overall and GT3 win in the ESETGT Cup with Miro and Adam Konopka, and now both of them together with Geno Mikuláško finishing on the podium, as it looks like, in the 1 hour endurance race. This will do a whole lot of good to especially Miro Konopka in the driver standings. He's currently leading things in the GT3 class with 20 points, 7.5 more than Martin Kaczmarski, who's not here this weekend. His closest rival being Gregor Žigo, who is down into 4th place in class, 5th overall. And of course his son Adam Konopka then being another rival of his, but of course he's also behind, which is definitely helping things for Miro Konopka to run away with it as we hit the middle part of the season and halfway stage of this championship. Here you can see who is leading the GTC1 class, the one reserved to the Porsche Cup cars, with Darmetko and Lizovsky, who are looking to almost jump into the lead, which would be something that Darmetko does if the results were to stay like this. Having won the opening race and finishing second at the Red Bull Ring, he would overtake both Breca and Neffe with his effort today if things were to stay like this in the next 2 minutes. It's still Max Hesse leading the way. Here it is, the number 500 car of Antal Žigo, Max Hesse. Trevor Racing have really done a tremendous job in preparing a car that was good enough to fight for the win despite a penalty after qualifying. Of course, penalty coming from the Red Bull Ring, the previous round of the championship that saw the M4 starting in 6th, whereas here is the pole sitters or the sole pole sitter in Gregor Žigo, in the M6 car, the sister older car from BMW that Trevor Racing is fielding. Žigo was one of the quickest drivers of all, and he was leading the race before going off into the gravel and losing quite a lot of time. Almost 30 seconds was it for Žigo, who is now lifted off as his teammate is starting the final lap of the race with only 18 seconds left to go. What a phenomenal recovery drive from Žigo and Hesse. Antal did beautifully in the first half of the race, getting a couple of spots from 6th to 4th before handing the car over to Hesse. We have to say, didn't have to do much on track, but his consistency and his race pace have demonstrated that he has what it takes to make it not only in the 1 Hour Endurance Championship but also in various different GT3 races. A factory BMW driver, despite his very young age. He turns 23 this year. Born in 2001 and definitely born to race. In this category, we saw the timer go to 0 with the stewards letting the drivers know that it's the final lap of the race. Here is the BMW M4, who is going up the hill and then down towards turns 13 and 14. It's been absolutely brilliant performance from Žigo and Hesse. Nothing to say there. The number 500 car was the favorite coming in. They took pole position before being penalized down to 6th place. And they will now start the final lap of this race. Here it is, confirmation from the graphics. The last 5.9 kilometers for BMW and Trevor Racing to finish things off here in the 1 Hour Endurance race. The toughest of them all in the ESETCup. Definitely a performance to remember for Žigo and Hesse. Let's not forget though about the home team, ARC Bratislava, getting a double podium as things stand, with Mikuláško and Adam Konopka in 2nd and 3rd respectively, with Konopka's father also racing with Mikuláško and finishing 2nd, with Miro being just slightly ahead of his son, which is definitely something that he will smile about on the podium, as we often see here in the ESETCup. And here is the absolutely undisputed race leaders and in just about a minute winners of this opening round, bar any surprise move from them as they go up the hill for one final time towards turn 10. The last series of technical corners before the penultimate straight, actually the last one for their race. He's still pushing, isn't he, Max Hesse? Just proving that he is the best driver on the grid. His performance today has been absolutely sensational. And around the final couple of corners come Trevor Racing. And what a weekend for them, as they will cross the line with the BMW M4 driven by Max Hesse and Antal Žigo to take the win in the 1 Hour Endurance race here in ESETCup. What a phenomenal display of racing from the German and Slovakian duo. Phenomenal performance for Trevor Racing, the home team winning their home race. Nothing better than that for sure, with ARC Bratislava ready to cheer a double podium for the two Lamborghinis, with Mikuláško crossing the line in second, together with Miro Konopka, who has raced in the first half of today's race. And of course then his son Adam coming home in third, crossing the start-finish line now to get it once again on the podium here in the 1 hour endurance racing. We wait for confirmation, but the winners in the GTX class should be the Karin Racing team, with Macho Homola doing a phenomenal job in the car, together with Viktor Mraz, the pair from Slovakia, taking home the honors in the GTX class. Whereas the GTC1 category, populated by the Porsche Cup cars, has been won by Hubert Darmetko and Mateusz Lizowski, the Polish duo, taking home the win with car number 7, PTT Racing. Rejoice, thanks to the success that sees Darmetko climbing to the lead of the standings as well. Whereas in the GT4 category, it's once again BMW with the M4 GT4 of Arias Racing, with Rudolf Benio taking the 444 car home for the race win in the GT4 class. Here it is, the GT4 car that we just talked about, with Benio behind the wheel. It's been a lovely effort from Arias Racing, the Slovakian team, being able to once again bring the home colors to the top step of the podium. And here we have the beautiful highlights of this race. It was a very eventful one, with a lot of fights throughout the whole field, as we saw a KTM, an M6, a Lamborghini briefly, and then also the M4 leading the overall standings. Many twists, many turns, especially in the pit stop phase, that saw the M4 emerging as the leader, especially after this mistake by Gregor Žigo at the penultimate corner, which meant that their sister car would come out on top here in the 1 hour endurance race. Heartbreak for the GTX of Mini Berger, who stalled in the pits while leading the race. They still were able to finish on the podium in the category, 4th overall. And here is the checkered flag moment, where Max Hesse and Antal Žigo took home the race win. That's all from us. Thank you for being with us here at the Slovakia Ring. It's been a lovely day of racing. See you tomorrow for even more races here from the Slovakian racetrack.